schools, employees calling the students, checking to see, like Heidi had a bunch of her parapro staff at the high school, contacting high school kids starting today. We have questions about your work, how's it going, like the kids that were not online kids. What teachers do you need to hear from? Have you been able to reach your teachers? Your teacher been able to reach you? So that's what her staff is doing. She made a script for the parapros who are calling, so then they can contact the teacher. Hey, this kid needs to hear from you, blah, blah, blah.
Good.
So
I had teachers reach out to me today.
that's fantastic.
It was wonderful.
Yeah. So I know that that's how they're going about their K-5. They have staff, the teaching staff has the ability to do that. And people who are regular classroom teachers. So it's actually going pretty well from that standpoint, trying to reach out, making sure people know announced posts about the food.
Yeah, that was nice. Yeah, I saw that too.
I think we're ready to go again.
Okay, ready?
Yep.
Okay, welcome to this special meeting of the Chino Valley School Unified School District. Stand, please. Pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'd appreciate a motion, please, to adopt the agenda as presented.
I'll make a motion to adopt today's agenda as presented.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Andy, did you hear that?
Yeah.
Okay.
At this point, we have a call to the public. I don't know if we have any forms. Okay,
Well, I'm speaking, but did you fill the form
did you
out?
fill a form out?
Uh-huh.
I didn't
Where is
see it.
It's sitting back there.
Oh, okay.
Oh. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi again. We lasted a little over a month before you guys shut us down. And I lost the last school board meeting. I understand there was issues with teachers not being able to be here, which is actually administration's responsibility. Since last year, we had the highest amount of kids out with the flu that you guys have ever had. But did not shut down. These kids are not caught up. And every time you guys shut down, what they're gonna wanna do is quit, go get their GEDs. And they're all talking about it. You guys are gonna lose a whole bunch of students. We knew this was gonna happen. We knew that the numbers were gonna go up. Okay, everything wasn't mellow. And the kids are just starting to get caught up, and then you let them shut us down for another 7 days or so. So I hope you guys reconsider this, don't do this again. Because it's killing the kids. You guys are absolutely killing the kids. You're going to lose kids in your schools, and you're gonna lose revenue. And people are gonna get pissed off about it. I'm just one person. I come forward first before the rest of them come in and try to talk to you guys. But you made it over a month, and then you shut the schools down again. It was poor decision making. I understand the numbers are up, but the exact day that you guys were talking, we had a little over 5,000 people that have gotten sick from it, not been infected, that have actually gotten sick from it. But what they don't tell you is 2,900 of those cases have been recovered. So the numbers you guys are getting, you're getting in little spurts. There's one person that didn't vote, the rest of you guys voted to do it. I'm shocked. Especially with you being a doctor. So that's one thing I wanted to talk about. The second thing I wanted to talk about was the face masks. They're not working. They're making our kids sicker. Let me tell you what a high school student does when he's out here, or a little kid in general. When they drop their face mask, they look around and find one on the floor because they have to get into that next class. They're not going to make a difference. They're making them sicker. If that kid picked up a face mask, I can see putting wash stations so the kids are washing their hands Science has not proven that these work or they don't work. All we can do is watch and see. Well, we've done that. This started out with me coming to you guys way before October 19th and saying this was going to be an issue. I've been looking at all the statistics. You guys consider nobody did. October 19th, we had to come in here and fight with him because once again, he wanted to close the schools down again. Now we're into the third time we're all having to come forward, and it's over these face masks. It may be a safety mechanism for certain people. I understand that. If somebody's sick, they need to wear one. If the teachers feel endangered, they need to wear one. But you guys are making the kids wear them, and the kids are. It's not productive. It's the opposite way. And then thirdly, I wanted to talk to you guys about. I came in here to talk to my grandson. My grandson's counselor about what we need to do on scholarships, where they are from last year to this year. Obviously, the scholarships have decreased quite a bit because we've lost so many students. I don't blame these kids for one. They don't get graduation. They don't get their sports. They don't even get their friends at school. I don't blame them if they all wanted to just go get their GEDs instead of drag us out another year and a half. If this is the way that their school board and their administration is going to allow this stuff to happen. But anyhow, I came back in the other day and I came to talk to my grandson's counselor about what we need to do to get him started on scholarships, try to be proactive in this a little bit. And the lady told me, ma'am, you have to wear a mask. And I said, no, I don't. I do have a medical problem and I'm not supposed to wear one. Matter of fact, I don't even have to wear one in here, but I'm doing it because we're all in close quarters. And it makes people feel better, then so be it. And I said, no, I'm medically exempt. And she says, well, you around the corner right here to those buildings. And asked for, I can't remember what her name is now. So I started to walk out, and my little grandson was here, and we were on the sidewalk. I have PTSD. Okay, that's what happens when you're held at gunpoint for days. So I started to walk out, and all of a sudden I turned around, and I saw Mrs. Wolf, Principal Wolf, and some other guy, maybe their security officer they have here. And I said, can I help you guys? And they said, well, you can't be on here without a mask. I said, I have a medical exemption from wearing a mask. I don't have to wear a mask. And then she proceeded to tell me that I would have to leave the school grounds. And I said, no, I don't. I came in here very specifically to talk to this counselor. So then when I would start to walk, they followed me. They kept following me. And she said, well, I said, I'll be here anywhere. I don't care. I don't have to go in the classroom. So I went and sat in the front, and she came out, and we started talking, and I asked for Jaden. I've been going in, dropping off uniforms and taking money to Jaden for 2 years. All of a sudden, I'm not on the list, so she wasn't letting me in. That's fine. We fixed that. But they kept following me around, and so I said, and she would yell things at me. She goes, well, do you have papers? Do you have papers proving that you don't have COVID? And I said, just a minute. I said, Jason, give me my phone. Let me record this. They left. She went and got the teacher, and then she came out, and they let Jaden come over, and we sat and talked about everything that Jaden needs to do from this point forward to make sure he gets a scholarship. I did ask her that if there's any other kids out there that might be thinking about it, is there a way you can put a flyer out or some sort of a notice, because these kids don't even know. These juniors have to have these in by May, but nobody knows. So at that point, Mrs. Wolf came out and tried to say something, I don't know, and I don't even know if she was talking to me, so I wasn't paying attention. And we got all the information we needed, and I thanked the teacher. And I left. But who does she think she is? Asking me for papers. That's what they did to the Jewish people. It's not funny. Millions died. I think I did really good, considering having somebody kept following me around, and they wouldn't say anything, they just put their hands down and follow me. And then on top of that, you know what happens when the police get called 911 to their school? You know what they think? They think that there could be somebody there trying to kill them or hurt the students. She went and called the police on me. There's nothing they can do about it. It's completely against the law. to call the police on somebody, especially, this isn't private property. She made the big scene out of it. She was following me around. It was all over the school. She called the police. They're just like, why would they call us on something that's stupid? We're out here actually putting our lives on the line. So I don't know what if anything, you guys will do anything. But I came back to you because of the school closures. You guys are planning on opening on the 6th, and let's just leave it at that. But you guys need to think about these masks, because they're making our kids sick. We haven't had an easy breezy year with COVID here. So it should show you, one, the masks don't work at all. And there's a high possibility that these masks are getting traded with kids, which they are. That's exactly what they're doing.
On time.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Item 7, approval of the consent agenda. Could I get a motion?
We actually have,
I'm sorry?
one thing in between. We have item 6.
Yes, public hearing for the budget. I'm sorry. Main reason we're here. So public hearing, we'd have to have a motion to open the public hearing.
I move to open the public hearing.
Okay,
Of
thank
the
you.
December budget division.
Thank you. Becca.
Okay, so this is interesting. In all the years I've been doing budget, this is the first time our December revision, our M&O decreased. So obviously it's because of COVID. So our ADM decreased by 131. We're expecting that to go down even more with the online. So our M&O decreased by 244,000. Now our carryover did increase by 530,000, so we actually decreased more than the 244. But since we had a healthy carryover, that helped us a lot. Our capital actually increased by 22,000, but it's because the carryover increased by 74,000. And some good news is our 301 increased by 26,000, so that'll give a little bit more to the teachers, but so that's basically the key points with our December budget revision.
One thing I want to point out also that's not included in here, and Rebecca and I have talked about it, is the amount of, the percentage of distance learning will impact the budget as well, because for every ADM that is distance learning, we only get 0.95 of that. Now, the distance learning percentage was it like 60 something at the 40th day? So, yeah, around 66. So that means about 3%, we'll lose about 3% on the budget because of that. Now, we received the enrollment stabilization grant, which was $800,000 to help make up for that. But ultimately, I think we'll be down a little bit. We'll be down probably about 3% more based on the distance learning portion, beyond what's in the budget now. And that's going to be fluid through the 100th day probably. And actually, they're asking us to do a 144-day distance learning calculation. So we may not know until the May revision what the budget will look like. So we could lose up to, another 5%. It's likely not going to be that much, probably closer to 3% is what I would think.
Same question that I asked Tuesday night. Still don't foresee any really unforeseen. Still foresee that we're gonna come out okay.
I believe so because of our stabilization grant
Okay.
And the carry forward.
and the carry.
And the amount of carry forward is just going to be a lifesaver.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we guess we need a motion to close the hearing then.
And I will make a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Okay, now the consent agenda. Could I get a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Annie, there we go.
Item 8A, the December budget revision.
So this is where you just approve, unless you have any questions about it.
Does anybody have any questions? Annie, you have any questions?
No.
Okay. Then we need a motion, please.
I'll make a motion for the approval of the 2020-2021 December budget revision.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
I,
Thank you, Becca. Thank you, Amy. Okay. Item 9A, COVID instructional model, Mr. Schultz.
So, a couple things, as of today, we have 26 staff members that are on quarantine or isolation. So that increased from last week. I think we were, at 18 or something like that last week. So that's going up. I know that in the past week that the cases in Chino Valley have gone up 20%, and the cases in Paulden have gone up 15%. So just to kind of give you, and then in the Quad City area, they've gone up 800 cases in the past week, to give you an idea. I'm not asking for you guys to decide what January 4th is going to look like. It's way too early to do that. And but what I'm hoping is that we come up with a mechanism that we can at some point decide what January 4th is going to look like. I see three factors on what's going to determine that. One is what COVID looks like. Two is what the staff members that we have available. And the third, which is a positive, is the availability of a vaccine. I emailed y'all, but just for the public, last week the governor said that teachers would be in the first tier for possible vaccinations for those that wanted them. That I think I think there's going to be some ranking in that first tier. I don't think that first tier is just mean everybody. My understanding is those that are in like long-term care facilities and those that are working in hospitals, things like that, will get the first ones, the first round. But there may be an availability of a vaccine. I reached out to the health department, and they, for two questions. One is, we have staff members in classrooms that are not teachers, that in some cases have more contact with kids than the teachers do. And I'm thinking about like our paraprofessionals and things like that. So that Leslie Horton, the director of the county health department, clarified that teachers is kind of classroom staff members and teachers in support members. So it's not just teachers. My second question is, can we host a vaccination clinic on campus or in our district? And she said possibly, and she asked for a number of people in the district that would be willing to take a vaccination. And so I sent out, and you should have all gotten a copy of it, just a quick and dirty survey to find out how many of our staff members would be interested. There were, as of about 15 minutes ago, 161 respondents to this. And of the 161 respondents, there were 97 yeses to that number. I also reached out to Paulden School and Minga Springs Charter School, thinking that, hey, if we're going to have this, let's get the other schools in the community and give those teachers an opportunity. Maybe it'll bump up our numbers and make a vaccination clinic even that much more worthwhile for the county. And I spoke to the director of Paulden School, or the principal of Paulden School this morning. She thinks that she's going to have about 10. And I talked to Dawn Gonzalez from Minga Springs Charter School yesterday. She's surveying her staff. So she's going to give me a number before tomorrow. And then I'll get those numbers to the county. You know, I emailed Leslie Horton back today and said, I'm thinking 125 to 150. I'll give her a more accurate number tomorrow. But that should be the number of staff members that we think that would be willing to get a vaccination. I made it clear, and I want to continue to make it clear, we are not forcing staff to take a vaccination. We will never do that. We are encouraging staff. We want to provide opportunities for staff to take a vaccination if they voluntarily choose to, but I never want to recommend that we require that. It's just not, people need to be able to make their own choices with their own bodies. And so I want to make that clear. So that's the availability of that vaccine, I think, will be a factor as well that needs to be considered when we make that decision. So, any questions about that so far?
How many staff do we have, teachers?
We have about 250 staff members. Of that, about half are teachers, therapists, counselors, things like that.
I was just figuring out the quarantines.
Over 10% of our staff members.
And if we were in classroom, would we have substitutes for those that are out?
I would say we haven't had enough substitutes. Even when we were, in the past month, we haven't had, I think on a daily basis, we're short substitutes pretty much every day.
Every day.
Yeah.
The point that Joni made about last year at this time, we had a proportionate number of staff and students out, so it enabled us to combine classes when we couldn't get subs. We still had very low numbers, so when we were down 20% of our students, we were also down about 20% of our staff on those days, so it maintained that inadequate proportionate amount. So that's how it's different from last year this year.
And then just to be clear for those that are listening to this, 26 are quarantined. They're just not choosing to come to school.
Correct. Those are quarantine and isolation. They've either had a close contact or they're taking care of kids that have close contacts in a couple cases, or they've actually tested positive. So these are staff members that have communicated with the district nurse and have been told to stay home based on the isolation guidelines that are on our website. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
So when we had a shortage of substitutes, is it true that basically the substitutes are shared within the Tri-City area from like Prescott and Dewey Humboldt? Like, is that true?
That is correct. So we actually contract with the county, who provides the kind of the substitute coordination, and then the subs are hired through ESI, which is a company that we're familiar with. They do like the return to work retirees. So the substitutes are hired through ESI. It's coordinated by the county, and subs can actually tell like on the and it's what's the sub called? The sub calling system? Smart Find, which is the system. The subs can go in and decide which districts to work at. So that is up to the sub, but the entire pool is available actually to the entire county, not just us. But it substitutes pretty much decide which districts that they want to work for.
So I was thinking, like, if we were the only ones that came back, then we should not have that kind of a set shortage because we'll be the only ones in school if that were to happen. I'm just thinking logically out loud.
Right. You got to remember that we have, for example, at the high school level, we were in person every day, and the other schools were hybrid, and we had issues, so they weren't even in person full time. We had, and you're right. There's going to be more pool, but right now we're seeing that with the increase in cases, the decrease in the number of available subs because people don't want to work.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and so it's as cases are going up, the availability of subs is going down. Now, right now, there's really no subs needed, at least on this side of the mountain. But when we are in school, the sub pool seems to be shrinking. And you got to figure that most of our subs tend to be retirees, tend to be older, tend to be in the higher risk category, and a lot of times they just do it. Not as their livelihood, just kind of as extra money.
Right.
And it's not worth the risk to them and to their health to sub.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Kim she was talking out loud about the subs and everything is there any way we could do like some type of an emergency thing where we could get volunteers to come in and sub? But I know they probably have to go through fingerprint and background and all that.
Right.
Correct?
So anyone that's in the classroom, we have to have a sub certificate for.
Okay.
And there is what's called an emergency sub certificate, which means you don't have to have a bachelor's degree.
Right.
And we have a few of those, and they are specific to I think even to a school. I don't even think it's to a district. And so we have to put what school that they're going to be a sub for, and that's the only school that they can do that at. So those are available, and we would definitely work with those people. I know that if you are a Facebook person, you might have seen some of the ads that ESI is putting out for substitutes. The county has also put out press releases about the need for subs. So, and you know, right now, if there's anyone online that wants a substitute, you know, call the county, we're looking for you. We need your help. And so the emergency subs pretty much have to be at the recommendation of the district. So that's something that if you're interested, you can come and call my office and we'll work with you on that. But if you have a bachelor's degree, it's, you know, pretty much you have a bachelor's degree, your transcripts and a fingerprint card, you can get a sub-cert. That's not a big deal. It's pretty much automatic as long as you have it.
So maybe, do we have anything in our district, like on our district website or Facebook that we're asking for people to do that? I mean, that just might help.
And I have Matt here, he's shaking his head that we've done some, probably reposted some of the ESI stuff and the ads.
Okay.
I have a question. What about, so of the staff that have been infected, like what percentage of those are, how many are teachers and how many are support staff?
And I don't know, I know that yesterday of the 7, we had 3 that were staff that were teachers, I think.
3, well, we had a couple bus drivers,
Oh, okay,
so
Yeah.
I'm thinking 2, 3-ish.
Yeah,
okay. I'll just,
probably, you know, just off the top of my head, I'm thinking about a third. Does that sound about right?
okay.
Bus drivers are probably the worst place that we could be hit, because we don't have many sub drivers. And so when we have a couple of bus drivers out, that's very crippling.
That makes sense.
You know, if we were in session and we had an outbreak in the transportation department, we would pretty much have to stop transportation. We have a legal requirement to transport our special needs kids. So those that could still drive would be transporting special needs kids. But, you know, it would get to a point where we just wouldn't provide transportation. Transportation, we are not required to provide transportation, except for special needs kids. So, you know, that's something that people rely on and we want to do and we'll continue to do as much as we can. But it's not a legal requirement that we provide.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I just have another couple of
Yeah,
clarifications.
please.
So the benchmarks that we are aiming for, those are put in place by the state of Arizona, right?
The Department of Health Services.
They're
Arizona's
not
Department of
just
Health Services.
benchmarks that we say, hey, let's reach these today. They are put in place by the state. I guess what I'm saying, again, for the audience, is to clarify that these are not goals that we have made ourselves, but they've been handed to us by the state.
Correct.
But it was mandatory by the governor, right?
And to your point, and in addition to the recommendations from the state for the benchmarks that they say we should follow, to your point, Annie, that was an executive order. We have no choice with the masks.
That was my second
Right. That's what
clarification.
people need to understand is that that wasn't something that we that's
Right.
something that is out of our hands.
Right, that is an executive order, and really, and my understanding, and Rebecca can correct me, part of the ESG grant says in there that we have to follow the executive orders of the governor. So, you know, we've been good, you know, we allow face shields, and so that's a combination that we allow for anybody. You know, and I know that Mrs. Roque was talking about kids picking up masks. Kid goes to the office, they'll get a mask. I guarantee it. I have taken masks to every single school. Every single office has masks available for visitors or for kids that need it. We had, I think, 4 boxes of masks delivered late last week for little masks for little kids for Del Rio and Terraforta. So no kid.
That is true
No kid, no adult, no staff member will ever have to go without a mask because they can't get one. I guarantee that's something that I can tell you, we have a warehouse right now full of masks. So that's not an issue. And you know, so to stress the point, that's not our choice. That's mandated by the governor. There was clarification that came out from Dr. Christ about the face coverings. And I reached back out to our attorney to make sure that what we were doing met the requirements of the executive order, and it was clear that they do. So we're golden when it comes to our procedures when it comes to face coverings.
So just to address, the question that was brought up earlier. So someone really literally has a medical problem and they can't wear a mask. What's the procedure for someone to come on campus, and do they have to have like a slip of paper?
Well, they're allowed to wear a face shield. So just because they don't wear a mask, they can wear a face shield.
Okay,
You have to have some kind of face covering.
Right.
okay,
Now, we do have those. We have at least one staff member and there may be some kiddos that the doctor has written a note saying this person cannot, because of asthma or because of some other usually respiratory condition, cannot wear any face covering, including masks. And in talking with our attorney, what we can do is what's called a 504 plan, which is basically what accommodations can we make for you as either an employee or a student so that you are protecting yourself and protecting others while either learning or doing your job. For students, it's easy because they can go to distance learning. And that doesn't have an issue. Other accommodations that we could have made but really aren't possible, we can keep them in a classroom and they have to stay 6 feet apart at all times. But if you're in the hallway, how do you do that without a face covering, things like that? So it's not really feasible for kids. For our employees, we put up in our front offices, we put up plexiglass partitions at the front desks, and we just have to maintain 6 foot social distancing. Which right now, when we had kids, all kids in, we went and did staff members of the month, the teachers and the students, teachers and classified staff of the month we did last week, right before the board meeting. And we recognized those staff members last week. We went into some classrooms. We went into a class, it was at Del Rio. I won't say which classroom. And I'm sure it's indicative of every classroom. It was crowded. Because typically we put desks together for cooperative working and everything else. All the desks were spaced out appropriately as far as they could get. It was crowded in that classroom. And the point to all kids in school, we cannot maintain the social distancing, period. End of story. There's no, on the buses, kids, we can't maintain that social distancing. And in the classrooms, we can't when we have all 100% of our kids in school.
We would ask, and the governor's already said everybody on the campus. And so if a visitor comes to the campus and doesn't have a face covering and has a medical exemption, even for a shield, it would be beneficial if they had that with them. Because we have to follow the executive order, and if we start making all kinds of judgment calls out, that's risky.
yeah.
And if they need to meet with somebody, or there's other ways to meet, it could be on the phone. A lot of what's the interactions that go on with our parents can be done on the phone. It can be done in a Google Meet. If their kid can get on Google Meet, they can also do a Google Meet with the teacher. And so there's other accommodations that could be made without a face-to-face meeting. Shoot, they can meet here, one person on one side of the room and another person on the other side of the room. And, we can do stuff like that. We can make accommodations, but, if people come onto campus, they need to wear face coverings.
And just sort of as a point of interest,
Mhm.
on our CBHS website, under the counseling tab, all of our scholarship information is updated, routine monthly. And every senior receives an email once a month from Miss Big Horse, who works in the counseling center, communicating all new additions to the scholarship list. So anybody in the public can access that. It's a very detailed booklet the counseling office has put together, and they keep it up to date every single month. So under the CBHS website, under the counseling tab, choose scholarship opportunities.
So, the reason it's on here is we need to make a decision about what's happening on January 4th. It's, in my mind, too early to decide what's gonna happen on January 4th. I've been telling people, if you can tell me what COVID's gonna look like in a month, I'll tell you what school will look like in a month. You know, the number of cases hopefully will be going down. We're spiking right now. Hopefully that doesn't continue. Again, vaccinations could come into play. Christmas could come into play. You know, Thanksgiving, the week after Thanksgiving was just horrendous when it came to cases. And so that Christmas could come into play as well. And so I think it's too early for the board to decide what's going on. We're closed for 2 weeks for Christmas. From the 18th through the 3rd, the district is closed. So what I'm asking is that, and this is something that other superintendents have the authority to do, was that you authorize me to determine the instructional model that will be in effect starting January 4th. It will depend on what we talked about, the metrics, the availability of the vaccine for staff, and the availability of staff. And I'm not gonna do this in a vacuum. You know, I would consult the 4 of you. Also, I think it's fair to talk to Mike Fogel and Peter Tona, who are gonna be on the board starting on January 1, because at least for you, your responsibility would be done on December 31st. But they would have to kind of then be responsible as part of the board starting January 1st on that January 4th start date. So that's what I'm asking for.
I'm just wondering, is there a way that we could have another board meeting before then, like to where the board makes the decision? I just feel like there's so much that comes into play that I feel like as a board, that's why we have a board, that we are able to make the decisions that need to be made for our district. And that's kind of what I'm willing to meet. I don't care how often or whatever we need to do, but I think that as a board, I feel like it's our duty to make the decision.
Okay. Part of the issue is for the new board to make that decision, it'd have to be on the 2nd of January. School would start on the.
We're gonna have to do it before then. I mean, like you said, we don't know what the numbers are gonna be like, and as far as we know, I mean, obviously things keep getting worse,
Right.
but we could have a turn and it could get better, you know? So we can't, like you said, we can't predict what's gonna happen in 2 weeks, we can't predict what's gonna happen in a month. But I'm just asking if we meet before, it doesn't, I mean, like you said, the 2nd, school starts on the 4th, we're gonna have to make a decision probably like the end of December.
Right. So that's up to you
Because
guys.
the new board members can't make that decision until.
The 2nd. The
Yeah.
2nd.
So I mean, at least that gives people, you know, if we can make it to, if we can meet after Christmas, or, you know, maybe even revisit and you keep in touch with us, you know, the week of Christmas and let us know what the numbers look like, and we'll all be, you know, give us an update and give us what your thoughts are leading up to it, then we can all be in communication and make the decision together.
Personally, I would really like to have Peter and Mike be a part of that decision, but also from the parents' perspective, I think they need notice. I don't think making that decision last minute is beneficial.
How much notice do you feel would be necessary? So, is a week enough?
I think a week is enough. I mean, I
think a week is
personally,
enough,
here,
yeah.
I think it's enough.
That would be like the 28th, maybe that Monday or.
And then also, because there is an opening on the board right now, could one of those,
I already asked that question.
did you? Okay,
I spoke to, actually emailed Mr. Carter.
yeah,
So I let him know that, about Mrs. Brown. And it's not this, to go through the process, he can't just automatically appoint somebody.
Okay.
There's a process that would have to do, and I don't think the timeliness is not there.
So what if we revisit it on the 29th or 28th? Can we do that? Can we call a board meeting on the 28th or 29th?
Could we?
That gives us a week that gives parents a week that will know what's gonna happen.
I know that Dr. Robert will be here, because we had talked about his schedule that week.
I'm around.
You're around, Penny?
Yeah, I'm around.
Mr. Fogel?
I'm around, yes.
It sounded like, Penny, that you wanted at least to hear what Mr. Fogel.
I definitely think we should get opinions of.
I do too.
both.
I do too, because they have to live with it.
Whether they like it or not.
Yeah.
And, if Peter, I don't know, I haven't spoken to Peter about this, so I don't know, but it's something that we can bring him in via phone if necessary.
So John,
Yes.
I could, or excuse me, Penny.
Oh, go ahead. That's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, I certainly can be part of the discussion. I could not be a part of a vote.
Right.
Okay.
Got it. Thanks.
If that's the will of the board, we can make it happen. What we probably do is post something. I know Karen may not be there, we can get somebody because that's not one of our holiday days, is it?
Which day?
The 28th?
No, it's not a holiday.
Okay. So we have 5 days during those 2 weeks, out of the 8 work days, we have 5 of them that are holidays. So I don't think it's that one of those.
We can post tomorrow.
Yeah, we can post it
So we
tomorrow.
have two choices then. We could either meet in person, or we could authorize John to make the decision
Correct.
on behalf of the board.
After he speaks with us.
After he speaks with
Which would
each
be
one
that
of us.
meeting.
Is that correct? Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
I wanna do what's best for the families,
Me too.
and if that's giving them a week's notice, which I think he would do that regardless.
We would do that with a meeting or with authorizing me. To be honest, if you guys wanna meet, that takes the pressure off of me.
Right.
Because it's all,
Preferably meet.
I'm fine with me.
I don't care either way, but I totally trust whatever opinion, whatever.
right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go by what the benchmarks are, so I don't necessarily mind either way either.
Yeah. So I guess
it's
we
really
need-
up to the board, it's the board's
Well,
will.
we need some discussion, or we need a motion, one way or the other.
In order to do the meeting, there would not need to be a vote necessarily.
Okay.
And let's just do the meeting. That sounds like where most people are
We
leaning.
can set a meeting without a vote, that's easy to
Can
do.
you make Monday night? What, Monday night?
Are you open that week?
9 o'clock in
I'm
the
okay
morning.
on days.
Okay. What time on Monday would you like it?
I could probably, unless we do it like lunch, we do it like 5:30 or 6.
I'm all for earlier.
Me too, I don't want to do that late either. I'm sorry.
So lunch being,
I could probably sneak out like 11:30.
Works for me.
Annie, 11:30?
Yeah, 11:30 on Monday.
The 28th, yeah,
Yeah, I'm in.
okay.
Mr. Fogel?
I'm open.
December 28th.
And you'll reach out to Mr. Atona
Yes,
and get his opinion on it?
yes,
What was the time again? I'm sorry.
11:30,
Yeah.
yes.
Oh, good grief.
Doesn't matter to me.
Just to clarify.
And what I may do, is this would not limit we've always allowed participation to speak during events. We might not include a call to the public with the knowledge that people can speak during the agenda item. Is that fair?
That's fair.
I think that's fair.
Okay,
Hopefully it won't go like 4 hours.
Well, you can limit that,
Right.
that speech also during the, you can stop it at any time.
Yeah.
Whatever works for you guys.
Anything else?
Not from me.
Anything, anybody?
Andy, do you have anything that you want to add?
No, I'm good, thanks guys.
We wish you were here.
I know.
Well, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody, we'll revisit on the 29th.
You got it.
28. All right.
All
Thank you.
right, thank you.
Bye.
Okay, this meeting's adjourned then.
Okay.
Do you need signatures?
Yes, don't leave.
Your adjournment, Stanley.
You wanna wait? I'll give it to you?
Okay.
I'll come back and get them.